All right, let's talk about a word we hear all the time: research. It can sound pretty intimidating, right? Like something that only happens in a lab with test tubes and white coats. But I promise, by the end of this, you're going to have a complete blueprint for understanding exactly how it all works. So let's dive in.
You see it constantly. A new study shows one day coffee is a superfood, the next day it's going to kill you. So how do we even begin to make sense of all that? Well, it starts by getting a peek behind the curtain. What's actually happening when someone says they're doing research?
So first things first, we're building a blueprint here, so let's start with the foundation. Before we get into all the different types and tools, we need a really solid grasp on what research even is.
At its heart, research is just a structured, organized way of asking questions. The key word there is systematic. This isn't just random guessing. Whether someone is exploring a complex social problem, trying to test a scientific theory, or even documenting a historical event, the goal is always the same: to get past just having an opinion and actually add something real to our collective understanding of the world.
Okay, so if research is all about asking questions, the next layer of our blueprint is about understanding the purpose behind that question. What's the why? Why is this research being done at all? And this usually falls into two big buckets.
So here you can see the core difference in what drives the research. Basic research is all about curiosity. Its main goal is just to know more, to advance human knowledge for its own sake. Think discovery, pure and simple. Applied research, on the other hand, is all about solving a specific, practical problem that exists right now. So one asks, what can we learn about how stars are formed? And the other asks, how can we build a more efficient solar panel? Both are super valuable. They just have different finish lines.
All right, so a researcher knows their purpose. Now they need to pick their tools. And you can think of this part as the research toolkit. It really comes with two main approaches for getting information. One is all about numbers, and the other is all about stories and narratives.
And this slide breaks them down perfectly. On one side, you have quantitative research. Just think quantity. This is all about numbered data, statistical analysis. It's trying to test objective theories. It's pretty rigid and structured, and it's asking questions like, how many people think this? Or what is the statistical effect of that? Then you have qualitative research. This is about quality and getting at the meaning of something. It uses interviews, observations, and narratives. It's way more flexible and asks questions like, how did people experience this event? Or why did this trend start?
So here's a super practical takeaway for you. The next time you see a headline about a study, this is the first question you can ask to start figuring it out. Are they basically accounting things and looking for stats? That's quantitative. Or are they exploring the deeper how and why behind something? That's qualitative.
But what if you need both? What if you need the hard numbers and you need to understand the stories behind them? Well, this is where our blueprint gets a really powerful upgrade. It's called the hybrid approach, or mixed methods research. And yeah, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You're combining both toolkits.
And the reason researchers do this is to get a much more complete picture of what's going on. For example, you could use a quantitative survey to find out that, say, 70% of students are struggling with a new online program. That's the what. Then you could use qualitative interviews to actually talk to those students and understand why they're struggling. By combining them, the study gets this incredible strength. The end result is, as one source put it, greater than either method could be on its own. It gives you both breadth and depth.
And now we come to the final and, I'd argue, maybe the most important part of our blueprint: the final inspection. Because no matter how brilliant a study's design is, there are some really critical rules and potential pitfalls that we all need to be aware of.
This quote really just nails it. Thinking about ethics in research isn't a one-and-done checklist. It's not something you just sign off on at the beginning. It's an active, ongoing process of thinking about the impact of your work on real people.
So what does that really mean? Well, it boils down to three big things. First, and this is non-negotiable, you have to protect your human participants from any kind of harm. Second, you have to have scientific integrity. That means no faking data, no misrepresenting your findings. And third, it's about constantly looking ahead and anticipating ethical issues that might pop up, not just blindly following a rulebook. But here's the thing. Even when researchers have the absolute best intentions and they follow all the rules, there are other hidden traps. There are these systemic issues and biases that can sneak into the process and really mess with the results. And knowing what these are makes us all smarter consumers of information. Here are three of the big ones. Funding bias is exactly what it sounds like. The risk that whoever is paying for the study might influence the outcome. If a soda company funds a study on sugary drinks, you might want to look at the results with a bit more skepticism. Then there's publication bias. This one's tricky. It's the tendency for journals to publish exciting positive results, while studies that find, well, nothing, they just get buried. So if 10 studies test a drug and only the one that worked gets published, our whole view of that drug is going to be skewed. And finally, generalization. This is huge. It's when you take findings from a really small specific group and act like they apply to everyone. The classic example is a psychology study done on a handful of college kids that then tries to make claims about all of humanity. So why does all this matter to you? Because the next time you read one of those headlines, you'll be armed with a few more questions. You can ask, who paid for this? Is this just one shiny result among a bunch of unpublished duds? And does this study of 50 people really apply to me? It turns you from a passive consumer into an active, critical reader.
So there you have it, the blueprint for demystifying research. We've gone from its basic purpose, to its tools, to its critical weak points. And you can see it's not just some abstract process for scientists. It's a really powerful way of thinking. So I'll leave you with this. Now that you have the blueprint, what question about the world around you do you think is worth a closer look?